Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. Today we are going to be covering, much like we did the Adventure Engine yesterday, we are now going to be discussing another new, very impactful series of cards coming from the selection pack that was, at the time of this video being released, came out a couple of days ago. At the time of recording this, we're actually still a couple of days from it coming out, but that is going to be... I've said this name wrong in the past, but I'm pretty sure it's Floowandereeze. You know, as the etymology here. I did actually study this before I started this video. You know, Floowandereeze, so like Floowandereeze. I know flows, I think, or flues or whatever, is just what most people just call them, but in any case, so yeah, this is the other, well, I guess the adventure, well, adventure is an archetype, so I could call this the other archetype that once again is going to have a decent meta impact that is coming from the new set here. So you've probably heard a lot actually about this archetype. It's funny, even though I think the adventure cards are going to have more of a meta impact than this deck, I almost see more people talking about this deck than the actual adventure cards. So what is it about the Floowandereeze that makes them so scary, I guess, or that it's got people talking about them? Well, we'll go over the individual cards that go into the deck within the archetype, as we kind of did with the Adventure Engine as well. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of resources that I use to kind of help me get more familiar with what the cards do. And finally, at the end, I'll be sharing my theorycraft list. Now, this is just the list that I have been basically running test hands with and getting familiar with the deck with. I've not actually played a game with this deck yet, so the list that you will see at the end is very, very much subject to change. And as always, if you have any suggestions for the list, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. That goes for not just this video, of course, but any video. I've always said that it's because of you guys that I am able to do as well as I am in this game, because of your feedback and your excellent constructive criticism that you leave in the comments there. So I'll definitely be looking for that in this video as well. But in any case, the Floowandereeze are an archetype of, you know, three little birds. They're Arctic terns that basically the lore is that they travel from place to place and visit various birds, and that's what each of the monster cards are. So we'll go into the cards that are used within this archetype that are in this set. There is actually one piece of support that is not coming out, and you know, I actually don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but if we go over here to support, Advent of Adventure, this one, Floowandereeze and the Advent of Adventure. Disregard this card if you see it. It is not coming out just yet. Rather, if you want an accurate list of all the cards that are coming out within the archetype in this set, you're going to want to take a look at this Burst of Destiny page, and I'll link this stuff in the description as well. But you know, this will tell you all the contents of like the TCG pack, but it's going to have all the Floowandereeze cards that are actually going to be, well, that's CP, that are actually going to be in this pack. But again, I'm just going to go over all the ones that we're going to use within the deck here in the video anyway. So let's take a look at the first one, what I would consider one of the main cards. This is kind of your one card combo, so to speak, is this card right here, Floowandereeze and Rabina. So this is a water level 1 winged beast with 600 attack and 1200 defense. It says, if this face-up card will leave the field, banish it instead. So the Floowandereeze are going to consist of mostly level 1 winged beasts that all start with this effect, that when they leave the field, when their face-up card leaves the field, it will get banished. The fact that it's face-up is actually going to be an important distinction. You can only use each of the following effects of Floowandereeze and Rabina once per turn, and cannot special summon during the turn you activate either effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can add one level 4 lower winged beast from your deck to your hand. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. If a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. That last line of text, all the level 1 winged beasts are going to have as well, that if you normal summon a winged beast while they are banished, you can just return it to your hand. So immediately we're seeing that these level 1 winged beasts already have the ability to recur themselves, so the deck doesn't really ever run out of advantage in that regard, right? We summon our winged beast, we're going to end up tributing it later, that's going to cause it to get banished, but then just because we just normal summon another winged beast, we can just add it right back to our hand, so it's totally fine. Another thing that the level 1 winged beasts within the Floowandereeze archetype all have in common is that they grant you additional normal summons, but only after you resolve a certain effect. Now, Rabina's effect is the easiest and also one of the best to resolve resolve among them, and that's that you can just add any level 4 or lower wing beast. It does not even have to be a Floowandereeze, it can be any level 4 or lower wing beast from your deck to your hand. It is of course important to note that, as with a lot of the Floowandereeze cards, you're not going to be able to special summon the turn you use this effect. However, you'll see that this archetype is really able to cheat around that by just providing, not even pretty much, it is actually just infinite normal summons. Well, not literally infinite normal summons, but as many normal summons as you could ever need. So, what do you want to search with Rabina, you might ask? Well, that's going to be this card right here, Floowandereeze and Eaglin. Once again, has the same text of when it leaves the field, it gets banished. When a wing beast is normal summoned, it comes back to your hand from the banish pile. And its unique effect is, if this card is normal summoned, you can add a level 7 or higher wing beast from your deck to your hand, and then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a wing beast monster. So we're already starting to see kind of the play pattern here, right? We summon Rabina, we use Rabina's effect to add a level 4 lower wing beast, that's going to be Eaglin, then we can add the Eaglin, add the Eaglin, summon the Eaglin, then add any big tribute wing beast from our deck to our hand, and then we immediately get another normal summon, so then we can immediately tribute summon it. The wing beast that we add by tributing Rabina and Eaglin, they get banished, but then they just immediately wheel back to our hands. So yeah, it's pretty easy to see it right off the bat just why this archetype is so good. You've pretty much cheated out a level 7 or higher wing beast for your deck with just one normal summon, but it's actually even better than that because you actually tribute summoned it, and specifically some of the wing beasts that we're going to use have very, very good effects when tribute summoned. So let's go ahead and go into the next Floowandereeze card here, which is going to be Floowandereeze and Stri, or I'm assuming it's Stri because it's ostrich. It could be Stri, I suppose. But this is a little bit of a more niche use card, right? This one's unique effect is when it's normal summoned, you can target one card in either graveyard and banish it. And then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a wing beast monster. So this effect is pretty decent disruption against the right deck. And also there are occasions where you'll end up with monsters in your graveyard and you actually want to banish them. We'll go over that in a little bit. But this card is definitely the most like niche use among them because remember, in order to get your additional normal summon from the Floowandereeze cards, you have to resolve the first effect. So like turn 1, you can't use this effect really. And even in later turns, it just kind of depends if there's a monster in either graveyard to banish. So don't rely on this card for comboing, but if you're able to get the banish effect off, it can be pretty useful in certain situations. This is would be a one of. Oh, and for ratioing, yeah, we definitely want 3 of each Rabina and Eaglin in our decks. But 1 Stri is enough. Same with token here. We're good with only 1 copy of this because this one's unique effect is if it's normal summon, you can target one of your banished Floowandereeze cards, add it to your hand, and then after the effect resolves, you can normal summon a winged beast monster. Now that might seem a little like, you might be like, well, why would you want to do that? Don't they just all add themselves back anyway? Well, it's only the level 1 winged beasts that do, and there are actually situations where you will still need to add back a level 1 winged beast anyway, as the wing beasts can only add themselves, the level 1, I should say, the level 1 Floowandereeze monsters can only add themselves back from banished to hand once returned. So there are occasions where that comes up. You could also, it's an optional trigger effect. So sometimes you can even choose not to return the wing beast from banished to hand, so that way you can summon token, add it, and then, because remember, we have to do the first part of the effect in order to get the additional normal summon. So you can intentionally not use your trigger, normal the token, the token, not that it's not a monster token, I should be clear about that. Normal the Floowandereeze and token, use its effect to add the banished wing beast back instead, and then you get your additional normal summon. So many different ways you can use these cards as well. So those are going to be all of the level 1 Floowandereeze monsters. Now let's go into, well, technically there's 2 level 7 Floowandereeze, but the Floowandereeze and the Snow Owl basically, that one's, it's just too niche use, its effects. I wouldn't recommend using any copies of it. This other one, however, Floowandereeze and M-Pen, is a different story. This is going to be a level 10 Wind Wing Beast with 2700 attack, 1000 defense. I didn't really mention any of the other level 1 monster stats because they're not particularly relevant, but this one definitely is at 2700 attack points. If this card is tribute summoned, you can add a Floowandereeze spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a monster. While this tribute summoned card is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summoned monsters they control in attack position. Once per battle during damage calc, if this card battles an opponent's monster as a quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand. That monster's current attack and defense becomes halved until the end of this turn. So, That's definitely quite a powerful floodgate type effect to pretty much be a walking skill drain for any special summoned monster in attack position. Now, this might beg an immediate question of, okay, well, doesn't the opponent just summon their monsters in defense position and then this card doesn't shut them off? Well, that's not necessarily true, because you might remember there's a certain type of extract monster, that being link monsters, that cannot go to defense position at all. So M-Pen will always negate link monsters. This card pretty much says, like, it's skill drain for link monsters, but it's actually still way better than that, right? I feel like even if this card was just skill drain for link monsters, you would still play a copy of it. We do typically only play one copy of M-Pen. You can play two, but this card is highly searchable, obviously between Rabina getting Eaglin and then Eaglin itself getting M-Pen. So there's really not much need to play more than one copy, but you could play two if you wanted to. But yeah, like I said, it's actually even better than just skill drain for links, because sure, your opponent can just summon their monsters in defense mode to use their effects, but you know, especially if they're going second, that's gonna, well, prevent them from being able to actually, like, win the game that turn, right? If they can't summon anything in attack mode, otherwise they don't get their effects, then, well, they're not able to you know, they're not able to attack for lethal, and you might think, well, they can just summon something big enough, but then M-Pen's other effect, yeah, by banishing a card, you can just, I mean, anything, you would have to have a monster with, what's 2700 times 2 to 5400, so 5500 or more attack, pretty much, to battle over it, so that's pretty much not ever gonna happen unless you're playing, like, Crusadias or something, but, yeah, M-Pen is a very, very solid floodgate, but it's not the only floodgate type effect that we're going to be relying on in the deck, or disruption effect either. Sorry, one second. Excuse me. So, there are actually other big winged beast monsters that will have, like, disruption or just in general, well, not even like floodgate effects. Excuse me, just had to take a little sip of water there. We'll go over those when I go into my example deck list and I talk more about plays, and also when we go over some additional resources that I found very helpful. So, for the meantime, let's keep talking about the Floowandereeze cards themselves, and then we'll get more into the specifics of what goes into the deck. Alright, the next Floowandereeze card that we've got here is going to be their field spell, which is going to be Floowandereeze and the Magnificent Map. So this card says during your main phase you can reveal one level 1 Floowandereeze monster in your hand and then banish one Floowandereeze card with a different name from your deck. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. If your opponent normal summons a monster, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a Floowandereeze monster. You can only use each effect of Floowandereeze and the Magnificent Map once per turn. So, this card, the second effect, I don't know how relevant that really is. I guess there could be a scenario where you're holding M-Pen and then you can surprise normal summon M-Pen when your opponent normal summons a monster, but I mean you'll already have M-Pen on the board after pretty much all of your combos anyway, so we're really looking for the first effect here, which is basically lets you in a way almost search any Floowandereeze card. What I mean by that is if you banish any of the level 1 normal monsters, if you normal summon is what I was thinking, and then I just said normal monster. If you banish any of the level 1 Floowandereeze monsters and then normal summon your level 1 Floowandereeze monster that you reveal, by the way, which is also an additional normal summon caused by map, so you don't even actually have to use your turn's normal summon in order to use that effect there. But one thing that you can do is you can, if you're holding like token, for example, you can banish like any Floowandereeze card, then normal summon the token, and then you're pretty much adding any Floowandereeze card. But again, most of the time you're just going to banish whichever level 1 you need. Like if you don't open Rabina, but you open Magnificent Map and any other level 1 Floowandereeze, well, yeah, it could be any of them, couldn't it? I'm just trying to think, like, yeah, because all you have to do is normal summon one, and then you can add the Rabina you just banished. You don't necessarily have to get the additional normal summon from the level 1 Floowandereeze that you summon, because again, map provides its own additional normal summon. It's funny, sometimes it's just kind of hard to keep track of where your turn's normal summon is among all your extra normal summons, but I'm pretty sure I said that right. Right, I'm pretty sure I am right about that. It's just, again, just like I said, just trying to follow where your turn's normal summon is in the middle of that is can be kind of hard sometimes. But long story short, this can be a searcher. Most of the time, this is going to be a searcher for Rabina if you didn't open it. And with any other Floowandereeze monster plus this, you can go into your standard combo there. Another spell that we use in this deck, although we only use one copy of this, we use 3 of the field spell, 3 of this, by the way. We use typically only 1 of this, Floowandereeze, the Unexplored Winds. So this is a continuous spell card that's got a very interesting and pretty strong effect too. You can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of tributing, and this is still treated as a tribute summon. During your main phase, you can reveal up to 2 winged beast monsters in your hand, place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw cards equal to the number of cards placed. You can only use each of these effects once per, you can only use this effect once per turn. Wait, so you can use the first effect? I thought it was each effect once per turn. Okay, so it looks like you can actually use the first, if I'm reading that right, because it says you can only use this effect after the second effect. If it was both effects, it would say you can only use each effect of Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds once per turn. So given that you often have additional normal summons, that might actually be relevant and come up. But this is more of a going second card. But as you can see, it's a very good one because you might have noted that it's kind of like Soul Exchange or Monarch Stormforth, where you can use your opponent's stuff to tribute summon. But unlike those cards, you're not limited to just monsters. You can actually tribute your opponent's spell and trap cards, kind of like in the way that the True King cards do, in order to conduct a tribute summon. So this can be a very powerful way going second to potentially take out, like, I'm trying to think of what Floodgate would actually, well, Imperial Iron Ball, which prevents cards from being banished, actually might see tech if, I don't know, that would be very, like, specifically targeted towards Floowandereeze, which I don't think are going to make up enough of the meta to warrant that, but I guess that is an example of, because I was going to say a Floodgate card. You could use that, you could use the Unexplored Winds to take care of that, or just a Floodgate monster, just a problematic card in general, or even if there's not anything that's stopping you from making plays your opponent's best card. If your opponent's got face down cards that you're not really wanting to deal with, you can just tribute that. This card is fairly powerful, and then of course on top of that, it's also got this filtering effect where sometimes we open like more winged beasts than we need to, or like we open stuff we're gonna search later anyway. You could potentially use that second effect to just put stuff back and then draw extra cards, potentially have extra hand traps or extra disruption pieces in general in order to go into, or maybe even additional, like the combos in this deck. I kind of say combos because they are combos, but not like in the ways of other like a combo deck like Sword Soul Tenyi. We're not like going off that hard, but you know, if you open like Rabina, that's a play in of itself, but if you open Rabina plus map, that's extra play. So I guess what I'm getting at is, like, you could potentially, if you open with Unexplored Winds, use it to filter out some of the bad cards in your hand for potentially like a map or a Rabina as well. But yeah, again, like I said, the first effect, because the first effect, this tends to be more of a going second card, so you only play 1 copy, but it's still a very, very good effect. Alright, last card here is actually going to be a part of our quote-unquote combo line. This is going to be the spell or trap card that you search with, where is it, Empen. When you tribute summon Empen, you get a free spell or trap search in addition to that Floodgate effect, and typically this is what you're going to be searching for, is Floowandereeze and the Dreaming Town. This is a normal trap card that says during the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 level 4 lower winged beast monster. And then if you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card and then flip all of your opponent's monsters into face down defense position. And then you can only use that effect once per turn. But we're mainly here for the first effect, which at a glance might not seem particularly powerful. It's like, okay, so you get another normal summon, but only for a small bird. What does that really do during your opponent's turn? Well, remember that when you summon the small birds and they do their effects, you then, immediately after the effect resolves, get another normal summon. So, the fact that I went back to Rabina, you might see where this is going. You can use, oh jeez, where is it? Here we go, Dreaming Town. You can use Dreaming Town and just do like your Rabina, Eaglin, and then summon a big winged beast monster. You could just do that line. Some good examples, probably the most popular examples of big winged beast monsters to summon, that again we'll go over a little bit more when I show off my deck list I've been theory crafting, are like Simorgh, or not Simorgh, the Mist Valley Apex Avian that we summoned off of Simorgh and Bird Up. We could use that. We could tribute some of that to get an Omni Negate out. More often, you're actually going to tribute summon Rise of the Mega Monarch, which can potentially spin and bounce up to 3 cards and can enable some pretty disgusting loops. That again, we'll talk about a little bit here when we go over my theory craft list. So, those are all the Floowandereeze cards that are going to be used in the deck that will be out. Again, there is that other quick play spell card that will be released at a future date that is a very good inclusion for the deck, but is not out at this time. So there are other Floowandereeze cards that I did not cover here. Those are cards that I would not consider running any copies of in the deck. But just again to go over ratioing, well, we'll go over ratios when we go over my deck list. So before we get into that real quick, I did want to also point out a couple of additional resources that I found fairly helpful when researching the deck, and also just learning about the archetype and getting a feel for everything, what it does and how it plays. Because some people just prefer to read things written out. I kind of prefer the video format, which is why I tend to make these Let's Talk About videos, because for me it's more helpful to listen to somebody explain it rather than just read it myself. But different people learn different ways, so I wanted to offer a couple additional resources in that regard. So here's what I'm looking for. Okay, so this is I believe this is actually a TCG Player article, which is a website I've not used in quite some time. The layout has changed drastically, actually, from when I used to use it back in the day, but still a very good resource here. If you're looking for resources relating to Floowandereeze, by the way, specifically relating to the card pool we're going to have in Master Duel, generally a good date to look for is like November of 2021, because that was when Burst of Destiny came out in the TCG. So if you see articles or videos that around this date, that's going to be a good indicator that this is a guide that is talking about not only the card pool, but to at least some of an extent the type of meta we're going to have here in Master Duel. That date is very important to pay attention to when doing any kind of theory crafting or research in regarding to upcoming releases in Master Duel, because you got to remember that like stuff gets released in Master Duel in a different order than it does in the TCG and OCG. So just pays to keep that in mind. But yeah, this article here was a very good written resource. It just basically goes over a lot of the same stuff I did, just in a written format. So, you know, it also goes into a decent bit more detail than I did, as well as providing some example lists here as well. And then it also talks about like some tech choices, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. Shows off a Dogmatica variant too. I really liked this article. Was written by, I should credit Honko Chow. So thank you for providing this article here. And again, I will link this in the description if you would like to go through and read it yourself. A video that I actually found very helpful here is this one by Super Insane 18, who I have not really, you know, ever like watched or anything before. I was just kind of like looking around for good YouTube videos to show off, like as it shows here, combos and interactions. So this is, again, you know, came out November 3rd, 2021. So this was right when Floowandereeze came out. So this is pretty much the exact same meta and environment that the TCG was in, that the right as far as like the same card pool is what I'm getting at here. So if you'd rather see a video format where they go through the interactions, and they'll go into interactions a little bit more in depth than I do here, so definitely do go check out this video, which again I will actually also link in the description. Again, that was made by Super Insane 18. So thank you very much for this video as well, and feel free to check out Super Insane 18 as well. Okay, so the other resource that I have here is, this was a Master Duel ban list, or not ban list, just deck list. As you can see, we're on Master Duel meta here. I pulled this list from the pins in the Floowandereeze thread on the Master Duel Discord. I don't know if I'm able to get a link directly to the Discord, but at the very least I can give you a link to the subreddit, which is where I got the link to the Discord in the sidebar there. So again, I will link that in the description. That Discord is a very good resource in general for just general discussion. Obviously, as with any discussion, sometimes the things that some people say you have to take with a grain of salt, but for the most part, you know, communicating with the community and being a part of it is a very, very good way to, you know, just gain new insights into decks and archetypes that you might not have had before. And I would always personally rather like look at a bunch of different lists before just trying to come up with my own. I feel like whenever I try to come up with a list like from scratch on my own, I end up missing some key component or tech that I didn't even think of. So yeah, just being able to have that resource of you know, a community coming together and forming ideas together is very, very good to have. But this is an example list that would be more for like a Master Duel format that we're going to find pinned in the thread over there. So this is another just, you know, general list I took a look at here. As far as my list goes, which is what we'll go into now here, let me pull up a program we might be familiar with here, which is going to be Edo Pro. So yeah, I use this program when I covered Sword Soul Tenyi. This was the same thing I used to do like initial test hands and practice turn ones and just get a good general feel for the deck. And we have here what is more or less my theorycraft list. This is the list I've been doing test hands with, and like I mentioned, all that other stuff. And as of right now, this is the list I'll probably try first, but there's a decent chance this might not be the list that you see when I actually do my Floowandereeze deck profile. Again, I'll put a huge asterisk over this list with subject to change, right? And again, if you have any suggestions for the list, do feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm just going to briefly go over it here, and then we'll maybe do like a test hand or two. So, like I mentioned, we're running 3 Rabinas, we're running 3 Eaglins, 1 Stree, and 1 Token, as well as 1 M-Pen. Again, you could run 2 M-Pens. My initial list actually had 2 M-Pens, but I pretty quickly realized you just only need the one. Like, the second one doesn't really do a whole lot of the time, from at least from what I can tell. So as far as other winged beasts that we're running, we see Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. This is a very good floodgate deck. Floowandereeze, in case it's not kind of apparent, is a little bit more of an anti-meta deck as opposed to like a like traditional or like quote-unquote true combo deck, because we are comboing into big stuff, but we're also looking to like lock our opponent out of well, you know, Impen in and of itself is already like a floodgate type effect. The archetype already has kind of like an anti-special summon monsters kind of theme going on, so that makes it really easy to include other floodgate type stuff like Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. And of course, being a winged beast, it is searchable by Rabina. You can use your additional normal summon for it. If you're, you know, at the end of your combo turn one, if you're holding Impen, and you've got this in your hand, you can just use an additional normal summon for the Barrier Statue. Pretty easy to do that. As far as the other big winged beasts that we're running, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be Apex Avian and Ryza, the Mega Monarch. I've heard people say Ryza. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Ryza, like rising, but yeah, Ryza and Apex Avian are going to be our main big winged beasts that we're going to search. Ryza is particularly good here because we get to, you know, because we're going to be tribute summoning it, we can target a card in the field and then in either graveyard. But because we're also tributing wind monsters, we can target an additional card, and then we can spin the first 2 cards back to the top of the deck and also bounce the latter card to the hand. This can obviously be quite disruptive to the opponent, as we not only get 2 cards off their field and 1 card out of their graveyard, but we stack them on top of the deck, ensuring that we know their next draws are going to be, if you stack them right, you can make their next draws pretty mediocre. Because you don't even have to like spin something back in the graveyard that's like a combo piece. You could just spin back a card that would be a bad top deck, and then just give your opponent a bad top deck. Like, and then on top of that, we can bounce cards. But they're not actually limited to cards on the opponent's field. Ryza can be used to do some pretty disgusting things as far as looping the opponent by the video from Super Insane 18 goes into this in a little bit more in-depth detail, and will show you like the card interactions. But generally, if you just want a general idea, what we do is, you know, we set up our combo right with Rabina, Eaglin into M-Pen, and then getting the trap card, the Floowandereeze and Dreaming Town, and then during the next turn you use Dreaming Town to get back the, well, what you do is, and again, Super Insane's video covers this, but it's actually often right to leave Rabina banished with its own effect and not add it, but to add back Eaglin. And then what you do on the next turn is you use Floowandereeze and Dreaming Town on your opponent's turn that you searched up with M-Pen, summon the Eaglin, then you can add Rabina back during your opponent's turn. And what that does is that makes a chain block. We're familiar with chain blocks, right, from playing Sword Soul Tenyi and other decks where we chain block against Ash, because we can actually chain block Eaglin's search by, again, using Rabina's effect to add it back from banished to hand. So then we use Eaglin to search Ryza. Rabina's adds itself back. We get immediately we get another normal summon. We can immediately normal summon the Rabina, add something. It doesn't really matter. Then we immediately get another normal summon, and then we normal summon Ryza the Mega Monarch. And what we're able to do is not only spin a couple of our opponent's cards, but then you could even use the bounce effect to just return your own Ryza to your hand. And then that way you can then on your opponent's next, you can just basically keep summoning the Ryza, and then just keep spinning your opponent's cards and locking them out of the game by ensuring they keep having bad top decks. You can also, with Dimension Shifter, which is a powerful hand trap this deck actually has pretty easy access to, you can use Dimension Shifter to put your opponent under this like Macrocosmos type effect, and then when you normal summon your Rise of the Mega Monarch, instead of spinning back a card in your opponent's graveyard, you stack your own Dimension Shifter on top of your deck, and then now not only are you looping them by spinning cards with Ryza and bouncing back the Ryza, but you can keep putting back your Dimension Shifter and then just perpetually banish your opponent's cards forever. So that's definitely one of the scarier interactions that I think has people a bit frightened of this deck. I don't think it's going to happen too often like that. I mean, you got to remember, this archetype 2 is still very susceptible to disruption itself, like Ash, like I mentioned, on Eaglin and Rabina, but mainly actually Imperm and Valor. All of these effects are obviously activating on board, so an Imperm, or including Ryza itself too. So Imperm and Valor really help to really hinder this deck. Rather, I guess they help other decks just to shut down Floowandereeze, which we're already seeing fairly decently wide use of those cards because of Sword Soul Tenny. But you might notice in my list here I'm playing 3 Book of Moon, and the reason that we're playing this card is actually specifically against Valor and Imperm. In this deck, I mean, Book of Moon can actually be used as disruption in and of itself, but in this deck you can almost think of it as Crossout Designator, but specifically for Valor and Imperm. Because basically what this does is, like, let's say you normal summon Rabina and your opponent activates Imperm. You can actually chain Book of Moon, and it'll flip your Rabina face down. Because it's no longer face up, Imperm loses its target, and then the Rabina will still resolve. You can still get your Eaglin, you still get other normal summon. You can still do the whole combo line. The one thing that is going to be different is because Rabina is face down, and that's why I mentioned this at the very start of the video, that it's important that these only get banished when they're face up. Because they're face down, they're going to go to the graveyard instead, or whatever you put face down. If it's a level 1 winged beast, when it leaves the field, it's not going to get banished, it is going to go to the graveyard. So that is something you do have to keep in mind, but most of the time that shouldn't be too big of a deal. It's definitely more important that we're resolving our effect than that we get, a level 1 winged beast banished. That's in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, that's fine. As far as the rest of my list here, it looks fairly standard, right? We're playing 3C, we're playing 3 Ash, we're playing some Imperms. These Imperms are kind of like flex spots. I've seen people use like Gold Sark as an additional surge, or some people use like Solemn Judgments. I don't know. These Imperms are, again, just kind of like the flex spot, but obviously do anticipate Imperms still doing very well in this upcoming format. Not like it's the mirror match, but again, Sword Soul Tenny will still be around and still be a thing, so Imperm will definitely be good against that, as well as just being a good card in general. So yeah, I think at the very end here, let's go ahead and let's rock out a test hand and see how it plays out. Okay, so we've got actually a pretty good hand here. We opened Rabina, but we also opened Terraforming, which is going to let us get our Magnificent Map, so that can let us do actually some additional plays besides just the 1-card combo here. So, and again, I'm going to kind of throw an asterisk on these test hands. Like, I've only done theory crafting, I've only done these like simulated test hands, so I could still be playing these not 100% optimally, but just gonna throw that out there. But again, if you guys have any suggestions for my list or my gameplay, do let me know in the comments. I would be very receptive to receiving those. Great. So we'll use the magical map here in order to summon the Rabina, as opposed to getting our additional normal summon, because that way, well, 1, we get the banish, and then 2, we get to obviously have another normal summon on top of that. So we don't actually need to search Eaglin here with Rabina. We can just banish it with the map. We can just throw Rabina over here, and we're definitely going to use both trigger effects. We'll still get a search with Rabina, and then we can still add the Eaglin via its own effect. So with the search, since we have an extra search, we don't need Stree or a token, so I'm just going to get the barrier statue, because we can throw that onto our combo at the end here. Now we immediately get an extra normal summon. We're going to make that Eaglin. We just throw that right over here. Use Eaglin's effect. Nope, we don't want to chain our Ash. And let's see, we actually already have the Impen, so we don't have to search that either. So I guess we could just go ahead and grab the Ryza for the next turn. And we get our extra normal summon. So let's go into Impen, tributing Eaglin and Rabina. And then we get our trigger effects. Let's go ahead and get Impen. And I know I said earlier we usually don't use Rabina so that we can leave it banished as a chain block for the next turn, but since we already used Eaglin's effect this turn, it's going to stay banished anyway, so With this hand specifically, we can add back Rabina. Okay, and now at this stage, again, you're going to want to add the Floowandereeze and Dreaming Town to complete the combo for the next turn there. And we get an extra normal summon. Now, you don't always take this. Like, if I didn't have the barrier statue in my hand, I wouldn't take this extra normal summon because I don't want to summon either of these. But because I got to search that extra barrier statue, it's like, yeah, sure, why not? We'll just throw on a barrier statue here. And I think we actually didn't even, yeah, you can see we still have the option normal summon. So we didn't even use our turn's normal summon to do that. Now that I've gotten all my combo pieces out, we can just go ahead and throw on a Pot of Prosperity here, because why not, for 6. And the extra deck, there are some cards like Almirage or like Relinquished Anima that, or also like Link Kuriboh, that you could potentially make that you would want to include, but the rest is like, as you can see, it's just like meme stuff, right? Like, we're not using the extra deck with this deck, so you just kind of throw in whatever. Ooh, that Max C looks pretty good. We can just have that as extra, like an extra hand trap. The Dreaming Town, the Unexplored Winds could be a decent add, but I'll just grab Max C here, why not? And it doesn't really matter what order we put this on the bottom, because we're going to shuffle before we get that far anyway, and then we'll just hit that. And so basically this is a setup going into your opponent's turn, and then because it's a simulation, I can't actually play out what your opponent's turn would be like, but during your opponent's main phase, like I mentioned earlier, you would flip Dreaming Town. Dreaming Town would let you normal summon Rabina. Rabina would let you add, and then you could chain block with the Eaglin's effect here. Whoops, the Eaglin's effect here. I'll just leave the cursor there. The Eaglin's effect here. You could chain block with that to add this back to your hand. And then you could then normal summon the Eaglin and then add, well, in this case, we already have the Ryza, so you could just add the Apex Avian, and then you would summon either the Ryza or the Avian. Again, the Ryza is typically a little bit better, but the Apex Avian, just depending on the situation, could be a valid use as well. So we not only have that play, but they can't special summon anything but winds, and we have C, and we have Ash. So this is a pretty nice setup. Pretty ideally, this would be like a standard turn 1, but again, that was with Rabina plus map. If you just have Rabina, well, let's just see real quick if we get a hand with just Rabina. Wow, this is actually a dead hand here. You actually don't have plays because we don't have a level 1 winged beast to go with the map here, so that's kind of sad. Well, here we have a hand that might be dead, but let's go ahead and activate Prosperity. This might actually be a good reason to add Gold Sark. Well, I guess I don't know if Gold Sark would do anything as a search though, unless you had another level 1 winged beast to summon though, right? Yeah, that's kind of why I was a little bit hesitant to add it in the first place, but could still be good here. We are also playing Duality as well as the Prosperity, because again, we don't rely on special summons. And wow, still no Rabina. I guess we'll get a Duality to see if we can fetch the Rabina. The Eaglin doesn't really do anything by itself because, yeah, you can normal summon it, yeah, you can search a level 7 or higher winged beast, but you only have one, you know, monster on the board, so you won't be able to summon it. So let's see what Duality shows us here. Still nothing. Wow, it's not good luck. Two hands that end up being dead in the row. I guess we'll try one more hand and see if we can just open a Rabina here. Oh, we opened like every other Floowandereeze card that's going to open besides Rabina. Let's see if we can get one in 6. I suppose you could also play Extravagance, like instead of maybe Duality or Prosperity if you wanted to, but I think, okay, there's Rabina. So I'll show you like a 1-card quote-unquote combo with Rabina. But I think Prosperity and Duality are probably the best ones to add, because as you can see, it's often not like the number of cards that you need to draw. You just need to find the specific combo piece to get your plays going. Excuse me. So even though we actually once again have map plus Rabina, I'll just show you what like a standard kind of Rabina only play looks like. It's going to be pretty similar, right? We're going to summon Rabina. Rabina adds Eaglin. We'll summon a winged beast monster. We'll summon our Eaglin. Which again, we could have summoned a bear or searched a barrier statue because we already had an Eaglin, but this is just more assuming you only have Rabina. Then you use Eaglin to add Impen. And we'll summon a winged beast. We summon Impen by sending these two. And then we use their trigger effects. We'll use Impen, and then again, we're only going to activate Eaglin and not Rabina here to chain block next turn. So once again, in this hand, we already opened Dreaming Town, but if you didn't, you would just search it here. And we don't actually want to normal summon anything here, so we'll just say no. And then you set the Dreaming Town, and then that's basically your like baseline setup, your 1-card combo, because then again on the next turn you flip up the Dreaming Town, summon the Eaglin, use Robina's effect to add itself back, Eaglin adds Ryza, tribute summon for Ryza, disrupts, or you add Apex Avian, and then you have the Omni Negate on the board. So yeah, I think that's gonna just about do it. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to actually, but that's totally fine there. Let me go ahead and go back to just kind of, I guess, the main Floowandereeze. Well, and then I didn't end up doing that. I just wanted the Floowandereeze page. Here it is. Yep. So thank you for thank you for joining me for this video here. I very much appreciate you watching to the very end like this. It definitely means a whole lot that you do. It's a great way to support the channel. Other great ways to support the channel, if you feel like doing so, are commenting and subscribing. Like I said, please do comment if you are experienced with Floowandereeze and you have any suggestions for me as far as the build, the plays, anything you could be adding to make some slightly better plays, any good tech or disruption against the meta that this deck can pull off that other decks can't, kind of like Dimension Shifter. Definitely let me know, and I'll definitely watch out for that. And then yeah, subscribing, like I said, great way to support the channel, and also keeps you up to date with my video releases, which do come out every single day. You get a Master Duel video from me literally every day, so you have that to look forward to when you subscribe. Without further ado though, this is XLex, signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.